Tonight, police secure restraining order stopping Fix the Country protesters from embarking on a planned protest this Sunday. Meanwhile, organizers have been meeting a high-powered government delegation, including defense, interior, foreign affairs ministers, as well as the Attorney General. We'll hear from the organizers who had earlier declared they will proceed with the protest.
Well, as we stand now, we know of no law that prohibits us from doing so.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
And Top Story is always brought to you by Gas and Cement. The Nation Builder is also brought to you by Vodafone. In the last few minutes, the police has secured a restraining order stopping the Fix the Country protesters from embarking on a planned protest this Sunday. This came shortly after the organizers of that protest had been in a marathon meeting with a high-powered government delegation that included the Interior Minister, the Defense, Interior Minister, the Defense Minister, the Foreign Affairs Minister, also the Attorney General and other members of the cabinet. In fact, in this meeting, we're going to bring you details of that particular meeting very shortly. But to the very latest on this, which just happening in the last few minutes, which is the police securing of this restraining order. My colleague, Kweku Asante, is here with the statement that the police just released a short while ago. So tell me, what is the police's stance on this, on the back of this restraining order they secured?
Right. So the police statement says the High Court under Justice Ruby Aite has restrained conveners of the Fix the Country protest march from embarking on a planned demonstration slated for Sunday, 9th May 2021, or any other date until the restriction on public gathering is lifted. The restraining order follows an affidavit filed by the police against conveners of the Fix the Country protest march pursuant to Section 16 of the Public Order Act 1994, Act 491. The Accra Region Police Command is hereby drawing the attention of the general public, especially organizers or conveners of Fix the Country protest march, their associates, officers, agents, assigns, and workmen to the restriction order and compliance. A copy of the order was attached in that order. So, Efia Tenge, the Deputy Superintendent of Police, the Head of Public Affairs of the police, signed the statement.
Okay, so that's the very latest on this planned protest, which was supposed to come off on the 9th of May. Now, a court of competent jurisdiction has granted the police a restraining order, and until this is set aside, it is assumed that the protest will not happen as planned. We'll hear from the organizers shortly, but this restraining order came shortly after the organizers had been in a marathon meeting with the high-powered government delegation. First of all, Kweku, who was in this meeting from the government side?
Right. So, according to the Fix the Country protesters who were in this meeting, in the meeting were the National Security Minister, the Attorney General and Minister for Justice, as well as the Foreign Affairs Minister, Shirley Ayoko Bochwe. They also say that the Minister for Defense, Minister for Defense, was also there. The Minister for Finance, the Minister for National Security, Joe Anoche, who is the Director of National Communications Authority, as well as other 10 people from various national security institutions, but they say there was no health minister there. So these were the high-power delegation that were from the government side that made the protesters today.
Okay, and we are now getting clarity on what this meeting discussed, and this is from the organizers themselves, correct?
Right.
Okay, let's go through the myriad of issues that came up in this meeting.
Right, so they say that when they met these government officials, they were impressed upon not to embark on this demonstration. But the police had written to them saying that they were not going to provide security for them. And they respond in this letter. They say, "We acknowledge receipt of your letter purporting to refuse our request to embark on a march and asking us to suspend the event as a result of restrictions imposed by the imposition of restrictions. Number 16, Instrument 2020 EI 395. We have examined the above mentioned EI closely and have formed the view that the instrument which was adopted under the hand of the President in December 2020 is no longer in force. As such, we cannot accept that the instrument provides the police with the authority to deny requests for the exercise of rights under Article 21D and F of the 1992 Constitution on the basis stated or any other basis. In the interest of fairness, we have strenuously tried to find any other legal instruments, including acts of parliament, executive instruments, which perhaps purport to grant the police a power to deny requests for the exercise of rights under Article 21D and F of the Constitution, despite the clear instruction from the Supreme Court in the New Patriotic Party versus Inspector General of Police. We have not found any such instrument. However, our attention was drawn a few hours before providing a response that the police action is based on EI 37. We have examined this executive instrument closely and have formed the view that the instrument which was adopted under the hand of the President is also no longer in force. Our team has conducted a search at the Ghana Assembly Press, and they were unable to furnish us with any new law or executive instrument that contains restrictions similar to those under the defunct Imposition of Restrictions Instrument 2020 EI 395. If any such law or other instrument exists somewhere in the bosom of the Republic, we are certain the 1992 Constitution sounded the death knell to secret legislation in this country and makes them offensive to our constitution order. As far as we are concerned and information available to us, there are no new restrictions that extinguish our rights under Article 21D and F of the Constitution, even if same was legally possible. However, in the interest of being comprehensive, we will address the defunct executive instruments 395 and 37. So, Evans, they go ahead to set aside some of these issues that have come up.
Yeah, I mean, so fundamentally, their position, remember the police had told us on Top Story a couple of days back that they cannot allow, I mean, let me say they cannot allow because the law doesn't really give them that authority. I mean, they are in essence opposed to the protest going ahead, and they cannot provide the protection because it's COVID-19 and there's an EI that restricts such gatherings. Now, from the details that you've just put out in the statement that organizers had just shared, their position is that there is no such EI and they haven't found any.
Yes.
And even that exists, it does not forbid them from going ahead with the protest. And in fact, to be fair to them, they also elaborate on what they believe to be similar gatherings that had happened in December 2020, referencing the many political gatherings that has happened. And they make the point that if that happened in 2020 by politicians and political gatherings, it shouldn't disqualify them from also holding a similar gathering in this case, which is really their position as expressed in many, many pages in the document that they put forward. Did they say anything, though, about the specific discussions they had with the high-powered government delegation in this meeting?
Right. They do not say any such thing. What this letter to the police has been has sought to do is to try and provide the police reasons why they think they are fortified under the law to be able to go ahead and protest. And they say that the police does not have any right under any law to bar them from going ahead with their protest.
Let's specify the time frame. This was written by the organizers before the police secured the restraining order, and so they were not in the known then because this just came up recently. A few minutes ago. I want to bring in Hadi Yakubu, is with the Freedom Fighters League, and they are joining forces with the organizers and those campaigning behind hashtag Fix the Country. And they were obviously lending their support to the protest, which was supposed to happen on Sunday. He joins us on the telephone line right now. Hadi, thank you for your time here on Top Story. The police has secured a restraining order stopping that protest from going ahead. Your reaction?
Yes, thank you very much, Evans. Good evening, and good evening to your numerous listeners across the country. I think you made it our name there. It is Economic Fighters League. But yeah, we've been served with an order from the court restraining us from holding the Fix the Country protest on Sunday, 9th of May 2021. This is very, very sad thing for the police to do, but it is not surprising because that is exactly what they've been doing over the period, and we have had several of such experiences with the police. I think that there is always a misunderstanding between the police and people who wish to hold events that call for accountability from all our leaders, because the police ultimately are people who are going to benefit from the better society that we are all craving. But be that as it may, we are law-abiding citizens, and we will respect court order, but this court order will not prevent us from exercising our right, and therefore we would seek to set aside this court order by appealing to the same judicial process that the police has used. Because even if you read the order, it is too thick, it is too sweeping. I mean, to say that we cannot hold any protest on 9th May or any other day afterwards. I mean, this is clearly an affront. This is clearly an affront, and it is not something that we intend to take lying down. And so, yeah, basically, yes, we have received the court order, but of course, everybody knows that this is a bad faith move that has come from the police and all the other people who purported to be meeting with us to find common ways of dealing with this issue. Court pursuing an ex-party injunction.
Yeah, I mean, but to be fair, Hadi, did you meet the IGP?
Well, I mean, the meeting was supposed to be with the IGP. It later turned out to be a meeting with Minister of Interior, Minister of National Security, and a host of other personalities.
So the IGP wasn't in this meeting?
No.
Okay. I mean, so I just asked for that clarity because you said whilst you were meeting and then they were doing something else. I mean, the police is entirely independent of everybody else you met.
We know how the system works, okay? We know how the system works. Even, I mean, if we are going to do a systems analysis of how all these things come about, it is very, very clear that if whoever it is that is given orders doesn't want something to happen, these are the kind of tactics that are resorted to. We know how these systems work, Evans. But as I said earlier, we are not going to be derailed. We are not going to be.
Do I hear you suggesting that the meeting with the high-powered government delegation was this to distract you, divert your attention, so the police can file this?
Of course, it was just a window dressing, purporting to meet with citizens and talk as reasonable minds, so that we can as Ghanaians deliberate on issues that are affecting the young people of this country.
So what exactly
on social media.
What exactly was the government delegation's position on this? What was discussed from their end with you?
Well, I mean, the main thrust was to sort of discourage and just sort of push us away from holding the event, trying to convince the organizers to pull it off. And then, of course, we had to stand our ground. And then also attempts to explain away the hardships that the people are facing that have become the cornerstone for the agitations on social media that we've seen over the last few days. But of course, I mean, he who feels it knows it better. So you cannot explain away somebody's suffering by merely appealing to COVID-19 and things like that. If somebody has an affliction, is suffering, that person feels it and knows how
Your call has been put on hold. Please wait. Your call has been put on hold.
Apologies there. Do I still have Hadi Yakubu?
Yes, you still do.
Okay. I mean, so was there a commitment on the part of the government delegation to address your concerns at all in any way?
Well, Evans, as I said earlier, I think there was more effort. There was more effort in trying to explain away the hardships and also to discourage the organizers from going ahead than committing, concretely and substantially, not just by saying it, but by showing exactly how things are going to be done differently and better during the meeting. And this latest move clearly, confirms the suspicions that were harbored, that this was just a window dressing meeting, and there was really no commitment to meet people halfway. And therefore, since the attempts to get us to call off the demonstration did not work, they had to go with Plan B, which is then to secure a court injunction, which we will respect, but which we intend to challenge using our own constitutional rights granted by the Constitution of the Republic.
I'm curious how a planned meeting with the IGP, because from what I understand, it was the IGP who reached out to you, was it yesterday, asking for a sit-down conversation. How that turned into a meeting with this high-powered government delegation?
That's what I was explaining to you, that this is how the system works. The IGP is made basically a lame duck by the 1992 Constitution. He acts based on the powers of the people who appointed him. You see, and that's why even one of the things that we need in the new Constitution that we are advocating for is that the IGP must not be appointed by the president.
But how did this happen? Did you go to the police headquarters?
On our way there, the people, the representatives from our end, on their way there, they were then diverted to go to the Ministry of National Security, where these other personalities then were assembled for the meeting.
Well, when you say diverted, did somebody call you and say, don't come to the police headquarters, but head to the Ministry for National Security? I wonder how that happened.
Yeah, it was quite bizarre how it happened. I personally was not there, but based on the briefing that we got from the representatives that were sent, it appears that there was communication on the way to divert the people from meeting with the IGP to the Ministry of National Security.
And since that, have you heard anything from the IGP or the police?
We haven't heard anything from the police or the IGP. We've prepared our response, which we delivered, which you read on your show just now. We haven't heard anything from them. We didn't even know they were in court. I mean, if there was any good faith in all of these things that were happening, you would understand that we would have been informed about the court process so that we could even also enter our defense, so that it would be a fair process. But no, they went ex parte on our blind side, and they got a judgment that is so vague and that is so far-reaching that it even borders on unconstitutionality. How can you? A judge, I don't think, has the power to say that people cannot exercise their political and economic or social rights under the Constitution of the Republic.
So as it stands now, 9th May is dead, is it?
It is not dead, Evans. There are so many other measures that we will be taking from now till then. Today is Thursday. We still have Friday and Saturday. A lot could still happen within the next 48 hours. And a lot is going to happen within the next 48 hours. Meanwhile, as we speak, we have young people, millions of young people across the country who are still voicing out their frustrations and the hardships that they are facing on Twitter and Facebook and sharing their individual stories. And also, and people, you see, that the good thing about this Fix the Country thing is that people are not just voicing frustrations. They are also giving suggestions as to how the country can be run better.
And very finally, Hadi, so you are certain that you will go to court to attempt to set this aside? That's the approach.
We will most certainly set it aside.
Okay, thank you very much. That's Hadi Yakubu, is a member of the coalition of like minds coming together behind the hashtag Fix the Country. I want to bring in now my colleague and private legal practitioner, Samson Lada Yenini, who joins us on the telephone line right now. Samson, it's normal practice, is it not? I mean, that in this case, this was ex parte, as in the organizers were not in court and the police secures it almost on their blind side. In matters such as this, is this standard practice?
Ex parte applications for injunctions, standard practice, but the nature of the order is strange. Ex parte standard practice will be for an injunction that is granted for a very limited period. In what the order that you have, it is almost as if it's perpetual. That is, for as long as there is an imposition of restriction. And remember, the president is empowered by the Imposition of Restrictions Act to, from time to time, issue such EIs which will operate. And it brings us to a very important argument that we commented when they were debating this, and the members of parliament, some of them very loudly, could not even wait to listen to reason, but to do the usual politics, that there is a pandemic, and everywhere else in the world, there are pandemic-specific legislation. Here in Ghana, and perhaps only in Ghana, the legislation is not pandemic-specific. It is a law that will live until a government says it doesn't want it, or unless, say, it was challenged in the Supreme Court and was thrown out. So that's what we have to deal with now. But on this particular injunction, there is everything strange about the length of the subsistence of the prohibition as granted by the court. With the greatest of respect to the court, there is a problem. And you see, Evans, again, let's remind ourselves of something. In the Republic versus Circuit Court, ex parte Giftiowari Abuaje, and then interested parties, the Inspector General of Police and the Attorney General, that's Let My Vote Count Alliance. When they went to, they wanted to demonstrate against the Electoral Commission, and the police went for an injunction in a similar manner, clandestinely to stop them. When Justice Dennis J gave his decision, and I appreciate that High Courts have coordinated jurisdiction, and therefore Justice Dennis J's decision is not bounding on as he was sitting then in a High Court, it's not binding on another High Court. But he said something, and I read it briefly. He said that he spoke about abuse or breach of the rules of natural justice and said it would be unfair to use an ex parte application to initiate an action whose outcome would affect the rights of other people. And once it is granted, the action terminates. Such a crude approach should not be encouraged in a democratic society, as the police, in their ex parte application, may depose to false information, which may persuade the courts to grant the application. So it is the reason that ex parte applications are granted for a limited period, more specifically according to the rules, for 10 days, so that within that period or soon after, the other party will be brought on notice so that they have the opportunity to also canvass their points of the situation, and also know that when Justice Denise was advancing the very lucid legal point, he was minded by the fact that this appears to be the only situation where you just get up and the first initiating process you take to court is an injunction application. Otherwise, injunction applications must be born out of a subsisting process in the court. There must be an originating process in the court already. Then on the back of that, you initiate an injunction application. But this is a special way granted through this process, and yet it's being used in this way in what I may say very bizarre. Very bizarre.
And something, thank you very much for that insight. This is just unfolding. There's a lot to still get through and understand as this is just breaking in the last few minutes. Something I'm grateful that you joined us with those thoughts there. There's so more on this that we'll be doing on Newsnight, trying to get clarity. As you've just had something that raised issues with the order that had been secured. We'll also be assessing the posture of those affiliated or members of the governing New Patriotic Party, the posture of government and the party itself, and some of the public utterances we've heard so far in dealing with the sentiments that is behind the Fix the Country campaign. You want to join us for that on Newsnight, which starts in a minute.